Bohemia is famous for many things. Its Rhapsody, its multiple defenestrations, its heroic defense of Prague during the 30 Years' War. But what it might not be as famous for is the grove associated with it, which has nothing to do with Bohemia, but rather is probably related to something started by Shakespeare in his whole The Winter's Tale thing, where he went on to discuss Bohemia as being this overly artistic place rather than just another Protestant kingdom for reasons I will never completely understand, but that's getting off topic. Point of the matter is, today we're going to talk about the Bohemian Grove. I'm Aidan Mattis, and welcome to the Lore Lodge. This is the first one that I'm genuinely concerned will get me in trouble. I'm going to be honest about that off the bat, but I'm going to try and keep myself on track with it. So the story with Bohemian Grove, and this is a genuine conspiracy theory, is that I can't even say it's a genuine conspiracy theory, because when you look at what it is, it's very real. The people who are members of it have referenced it all the time, and they're actually, they're registered as a 501c7 tax group. They don't have to pay taxes because they're a social club. It's the weirdest thing. It's like they literally exist. And, Bilderberg and Davos, they have their purposes for wealthy business leaders meeting with politicians to try and discuss how they can work together and such. This is literally just a bunch of Republicans in the woods drinking and doing pagan rituals for 2 weeks every July. And I don't say that to be mean to Republicans. I mean, that's literally what it is. Like, the Republican Party essentially bought the property back in the early 1900s, and now almost everyone who goes is a Republican. And there are exceptions like Carter and Ford. But some of the names on the list for this club, for this secret society, are Carter, Ford, Nixon, Reagan, Bush. Not Trump. Trump is not on the list. Scalia even. But, it was founded essentially by Mark Twain back in 1872. And what we're talking about here is what was originally a place that was Bohemian. And it was for people to go and spend a couple of weeks in the woods, getting away from all the stuffiness of conventional social structure, the way you were supposed to behave as a high-class member of society, just a fraternity for a bunch of relatively high-class men to go act like morons in the woods for a few weeks. The kind of stuff that you and I, as relatively low-class men, can do whenever we want. I acted like a very low-class man last weekend. It was great. I had a great time. But now I'm back in a button-down shirt and telling you about high-class men doing low-class stuff. And when I say low-class stuff, I don't mean to demean them. It's just, or even to demean low-class people. It's just stuff that you wouldn't consider high-class. If, say you're at a dinner party in Manhattan, high class. You're gonna wear nice clothing. You're going to address everybody very politely, all of that. Now, take all the people you would imagine being at a Manhattan dinner party or a Washington, D.C. dinner party, and transition them to a Penn State football tailgate in the Redwood Forest. That's what I'm talking about here. And add in a giant stone owl that they sacrifice an effigy of a child underneath on the first or second night and call it the conflagration of care. So as you can see, this goes from, that's fun. They're just having a little bit of fun in the woods. Why are they sacrificing a child? It hits really quickly. And of course, why do we know this? Well, we know this because Alex Jones in 2002 somehow snuck in with a shoulder bag that had a camera cut into it and filmed the entire thing. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it on his channel. It's true. It's there. It's real. Take everything else Alex Jones says, and you can take it with a grain of salt if you want. But this one is on video. Also, he's not the only one. There have been other journalists who did manage to sneak in and document what was going on. People who have convinced the workers there, because they do have employees, who have convinced the waiters there to hand out, to get pamphlets and bring them back. And so we do know bits and pieces here and there, and you can glean what's going on there from these bits and pieces of paper, like certain influential people giving a speech about a certain topic, and then something pretty important regarding that topic happening a couple years later. For example, there was one speech that was titled, do the terrorists expect the World Trade Center to fall? And this was 1997. And then in 2001, the World Trade Center fell, and it was the terrorists that did it. So you got to wonder. What did they know? Why did they know 4 years earlier? Like, what's going on there? But yeah, and it's kind of like Skull and Bones in a few ways. But what makes it so strange is you got to ask the question, why? And what is with all of the partying and the myths of them bringing in prostitutes and all these various things? It's such a strange thing they've got going on here. And to give you an idea of the social class of people who are allowed into this, first of all, you have to be invited. You can apply, but the wait list is apparently like 15 years long. And the initiation fee alone is $25,000. I want to make it clear, when I became a Freemason, the initiation fee was $367, and that included my dues for the year. They have monthly dues in the thousands of dollars. It is very expensive to be a part of this club. And it also seems that not everybody who's in the club takes part in the more paganistic ritual parts of it. So the conflagration of care, the sacrifice of care that happens the first or second night, that seems to be attended by everybody. And that's everyone from, you've got, again, names like Eastwood are on there. People that that you'd think of as actors, as people you might like. But nobody's managed to infiltrate what happens later on the first week, later into the second week. And it's also unclear if the people who are there for the first few days, the first weekend, stay past it. But there's some things to look at here. They are... So one thing gets brought up by Alex Jones and by a lot of the other people who discuss Bohemian Grove is that, they've got, this one guy dressed up all fancy and he's the high priest and he's got a white robe and a purple cape and to his right and left are 20 other men dressed in black and red, and there's a whole speech that he gives. I take rituals that involve costume with a grain of salt, because fraternities have them. If you're a Boy Scout, the Order of the Arrow has them. If you're a Freemason, we have them. If you're a Knight of Columbus, they have them. A lot of secret societies, a lot of fraternities have these, ritual dress things going on. So that's not a big deal. What is a big deal is the part where they bring in an effigy of a child and burn it on the altar of an owl god. There's also a passage of the Bible that says, give not your children to the fires of Moloch, which appears to be kind of like what they're doing here. And it's a very disconcerting thing. If you go on the property, you're arrested. If you leak their secrets, they try to ruin your life. And one thing that has been suggested by Richard Nixon is that what happens there is essentially they get you drunk, they drug you, and they convince you to have gay sex. And this is a men's only group. And this is also something that has been levied as an accusation against the Skull and Bones Society. And I haven't been there. I can't verify any of this. I'm just relaying the information to you that I came across in my research. They suggest that they get men who it's their first time there drunk and they have gay sex. And then that way they can kind of control you, because then it can be leaked that you went and had gay sex at this giant Bohemian orgy party, which leads me to believe, since it's unlikely that they would implicate themselves in this, that there's probably cameras and there's probably people involved in each of those initiation rituals, we'll call them, who aren't other members or who are masked or something like that, so that they themselves won't be exposed. But it's kind of like fraternity hazing taken to just beyond the next level. And now once you're in, you've paid your dues, you've had the gay sex, and you're a member of the Bohemian Club, and you have access to this 2,700 acre property that's 4.2 square miles of property, where they have these little clubs hidden, and there's little camps all throughout of it. It's essentially everything you'd expect from a hippie commune, but instead of hippies, it's Republicans. It's very confusing. And it wouldn't be so disconcerting as a concept if it didn't seem like they were planning things. A lot of people say, oh, it'd be really hard for such a small group of people to keep something so secret and then, nobody find out about it. But that's kind of the thing here. It's not secret that they meet. It's not secret who goes. Their finances aren't secret because they have to report to the IRS. But they seem to call their shots. They knew Nixon was going to be president before Nixon was president. They knew Bush was going to be president before Bush was president. So is the Bohemian Grove kind of who's selecting the next U.S. president, or at least the next Republican nominee? Could that have something to do with why Donald Trump was so wildly unpopular with establishment conservatives? It all does. It opens up a lot of questions. And what's unfortunate about Bohemian Grove is that with a lot of things, I like to think, I'm on track with where the answer is. This is one where I really don't know. And the people who have tried to get in have been arrested, charged with felonies. You're risking a lot to go and try and expose this group, try and expose this organization. There's also the question of why the owl statue? The owl in Western culture is a symbol of wisdom. It's also an apex predator. Could be that they're looking at it in either way, but it's probably the wisdom one looking at it. But you've got to wonder, why would a bunch of almost entirely white, conservative American men be going out into the woods to worship a pagan god? Is this evidence that there really is a cabal of pagan, I'm not going to call them Luciferians, but a cabal of pagan worshipers in our government really actually running things? Because when you look at who's on the list, it quite literally is the people who run things. And it's not just Americans. You also see people on that list like Klaus Schwab, who's the head of the World Economic Forum, the people behind the whole Great Reset thing that everyone calls a conspiracy, but the Great Reset is on the front page of their website, and Klaus Schwab wrote an entire book about it. What is going on here? And why don't we hear more about it? Why is it that we have to go looking for information on it? And I'll tell you why. It's because some of the people who are involved, some of the members of the Bohemian Club, are the heads of Time Warner, Comcast, Disney, these companies that control who hears what information. So whenever a story is going to come out about the Bohemian Club, about Bohemian Grove, it gets killed. I can't definitively say that the Bohemian Grove, the Bohemian Club, are behind anything that's going on in the world. That they are, I'm not going to say that, Bohemian Grove is behind COVID and Ebola. I'm not going to say that because it's probably ridiculous. Maybe. I don't know. Is Dr. Fauci part of the Bohemian Club? Probably should figure that out. I wouldn't be surprised at this point. But the point of the matter is, there is a cabal, literally, that is what this is, of super rich, super influential people, most of them Republicans, who go off in the woods for 2 weeks every July to give talks to one another, completely off the grid, where nobody can actually pay attention to what they're saying or doing. And these are people with political power. These are people with capital. These are people who, in their daily lives are extraordinarily powerful, and they get together and it seems that they plan things. And I don't know, maybe the other side doesn't have something quite as organized, but it's definitely something to look into at a time when these people could so easily talk over Zoom, over Skype, where, they could go out into Manhattan and have dinner together. Why are they choosing to go off into the woods where nobody can find them? These are the kind of people who can pay for privacy in other places. Does it have to do with the fact that they like to go out there and drink a lot and pee wherever they want and bring in prostitutes? Maybe it is entirely because they want to go have a total, wild weekend up in the redwoods and act like children again. But in that case, Why the same 2 weeks every July? Why the same 2,000 people? Why the $25,000 entrance fee? Why the fireside talks where they have people give speeches? Why the burning an effigy in front of an altar? If it was just something where they were going to go be frat bros for a weekend, okay. But the problem with Bohemian Grove is that it seems like so much more than that. But anyway, in this situation, it's something that we will likely never know unless some brave soul breaks in and documents the whole thing. So that's where I'm wrapping it up today. I'll see you next time. And if you like this video, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Make sure to share on every social media platform. Send it to your grandma, send it to your niece, whoever you think should hear about the Bohemian Grove. Maybe not your niece, because we used some sexually explicit terms in this, but send it to your grandma. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Twitch at the Aidan Mattis for all of those things, as well as Snapchat and TikTok. Or you can follow my director, Aidan Thornbury, at Director Aidan on Instagram and TikTok. I think that covers everything. Oh no, the Patreon. So if you want to support the Lore Lodge, we have $1 through $25 tiers on the Patreon. After this month, we're going to get that first actual payment, and then we'll be able to send out some of the perks for high-level members, like the t-shirts and handwritten notes, things like that. But even just doing the $1 tier and giving us a little bit of support will be super helpful. For example, right now we have 700 people in our Discord. If every single one of them were to purchase the $1 tier on our Patreon, we could fund this show completely. So it's generous viewers like you that help us keep this going. And at the very least, watching this video gets us ad revenue and gets us what we need to keep justifying this to our parents and our families that we have a real job. So if you want to help out, Patreon, YouTube, anything like that, buy some merch. Sorry to pitch so much at you, or check the link in the description for any of our brand partnerships. And I think that's everything. Aidan, is that everything?
That's everything.
That's everything. All right. So I'm Aidan Mattis, and once again, thanks for stopping by the Lore Lodge.